I gave 10 years of my life to this place. 10 years of late nights under the buzzing lights, of missed birthdays, of eating takeout at my desk because a deadline had suddenly shifted. 10 years of loyalty I thought someone, somewhere in management, might notice. When the package arrived, I thought, finally, something. A thank you, maybe. A gesture that all of it meant something. I cut the tape, pulled back the brown paper, and stared down at the cheapest bottle of whiskey I'd ever seen. The label was crooked, the seal already frayed, and my name, my actual name, was spelled wrong on the card. The bottle sat heavy in my hands, not because of its weight, but because of what it carried. The proof that to my boss, Derek, I was worth less than $30. Not even. I checked the SKU online later, $21.99, bulk discount, and charged to the employee recognition account code, which I'd seen in the financial tracker before. That line item was supposed to be for milestone awards, bonuses, events. Instead, it had been funneled into a bottle that looked like it came from the gas station down the road. I wasn't angry. Anger would have been too easy. I was emptied. 10 years, and this was it. The card tucked into the box wasn't even handwritten. A printed message in Arial font, bolded at the top. Thanks for your dedication, name. My name was wrong. One letter off. Like even the software couldn't be bothered to get me right. I sat there at my kitchen table, looking at the cheap glass, the misspelled note, and something in me shifted. 10 years of swallowing little humiliations. Derek taking credit for the project I led. The time my overtime hours disappeared from payroll. The constant excuse that budget is tight whenever we asked for upgrades. It all lined up with that bottle. This wasn't a mistake. It was a message. The message was, you don't matter. And for the first time, I decided to answer back. The company had a town hall that afternoon. The CEO, the board, the whole leadership team would be there, streaming live from the big conference room with its endless rows of gray chairs and stale coffee in the back. Employees always submitted questions ahead of time, pre-screened, polite, filtered. I wasn't going to scream. I wasn't going to throw a fit. That would have made me the problem. No, I wanted them to see. I put the bottle back in its box, slid the packing slip inside, and carried it with me on the train like it was an offering. My hands didn't shake. I wasn't nervous. I was calm in a way I hadn't been in years. When the CEO took the stage, doing his usual "Tau, people are our greatest asset" spiel, I sat in the back and waited. His slides glowed corporate blue. Engagement, innovation, recognition, all those words that sounded like a joke to anyone who actually worked there. The Q&A began. A few questions about hybrid schedules, about stock options. Then the mic came my way. I stood up. My voice was steady. I've been here 10 years. My boss sent me this as recognition. Every head turned as I walked down the aisle. I didn't unwrap it with drama. I didn't say another word. I just placed the box, with its crooked label and its slip, directly into the CEO's assistant's hands. The room went silent. A silence so sharp you could hear the HVAC hum. The CEO's smile froze, mid-performance. His eyes flicked to the bottle, then to me, then back to the audience. He nodded slowly, too slowly, and said, "Thank you for bringing this to our attention." That was it. No applause, no gasp. Just that brittle silence hanging in the fluorescent light. I walked back to my seat and sat down. I didn't need to say another word, because I knew what I had just done. It wasn't about the whiskey. It was about the math. That bottle wasn't a one-off insult. It was the tip of something I'd been smelling for years. Derek, my boss, had always been slick. He had this salesman smile, the kind of guy who slapped you on the back and called you champ, then sent an email to leadership taking credit for your late-night fix on a broken deployment. I'd told myself it was just how corporate worked. You keep your head down, you survive. But the recognition budget, that was different. I'd seen it in our quarterly reports, buried under employee engagement. Every year, tens of thousands allocated. Every year, nothing to show for it. When we asked about team lunches, budgets tight, holiday bonuses, canceled 3 years in a row, laptop upgrades, denied. But Derek's office got a new standing desk and ergonomic chair, and his weekend golf trip somehow got tagged as off-site leadership development. The bottle connected the dots. That night, after the town hall, I pulled up my old archives. Screenshots, Slack threads, calendar invites. All the little pieces I'd kept without meaning to. Derek telling us, "Sorry guys, recognition budget is out this quarter, maybe next year." The finance sheet I'd once exported by accident, showing a vendor I'd never heard of, Innovative Recognition Solutions, LLC, billing us for employee awards packages. Same vendor had charged us $500 the quarter I got my $21 bottle. I printed the packing slip that came with my whiskey, folded it neatly, and slid it behind the bottle's label. Proof it came from that same vendor. Proof that someone, somewhere, was skimming the cream and leaving us the trash. And then I started replaying the last 10 years in my head. The night I worked until 2 a.m., patching a client system, only to have Derek present the fix in the morning meeting as if he'd stayed up himself. The promotion that was frozen for budget reasons, while Derek quietly created a new role for his college buddy. The raises that never hit, despite performance reviews stamped exceeds expectations. The bonuses that shrank every year with market conditions cited it as the excuse, even though the company's revenue had climbed steadily. And yet Derek always had a new watch, a new car, a vacation. I used to think maybe he was just lucky. Or maybe he really was that good at kissing the right rings. But with the whiskey in my kitchen, I saw it for what it was. Theft disguised as leadership. I didn't rage. I documented. Every message, every denial, every excuse. I started pulling receipts like a man building an ark, because I had a feeling the flood was coming. By the end of the week, I had a folder thick enough to choke a printer. I carried it in my bag like a secret weapon, even as Derek walked past my desk, clapping his hands together and saying, "Great job, team," with that grin that never reached his eyes. He had no idea that his little $21 bottle had already lit the fuse, and I wasn't planning to let it fizzle. I didn't make a scene. I made a paper trail. The company town hall replayed in my head all week like a movie stuck on loop. The way the CEO's smile cracked for half a second when he saw that crooked bottle. The way the CFO leaned in to whisper something to the chief of staff. The way the CEO's assistant clutched the box like it was toxic. Nobody said anything out loud, but silence in a corporate room speaks louder than applause. The next morning, a calendar invite hit my inbox. Quick sync, recognition program, attendance required. No context, no sender's name on the invite, just a sterile placeholder dropped on my schedule like a landmine. When I walked into the room, the air was colder than usual. Not temperature, energy. The CEO wasn't there, but his executive assistant was. So was a compliance officer I'd only ever seen in mandatory training slides, and a finance manager with a folder stacked full of invoices. My boss, Derek, was late, of course, breezing in 10 minutes after me, wearing his cologne like armor. "Let's keep this quick," he said, dropping into a chair, flashing that too-wide smile. "This about the little whiskey misunderstanding." The compliance officer didn't smile back. She opened the folder, slid a few papers across the table. Copies of invoices from Innovative Recognition Solutions, LLC. Same vendor from my packing slip. Same vendor Derek had vouched for in budget meetings. I sat still, hands folded. Derek chuckled like it was all a joke. "Look, recognition gifts, shipping, taxes, it all adds up. We don't exactly control UPS, right?" The finance manager tapped one invoice with her pen. "This line says Premium Whiskey Gift Set, $450. She looked directly at Derek. "The employee received a $21 bottle of brand name. Can you explain the discrepancy?" Derek's grin twitched. He adjusted his cufflinks. Maybe that's a fulfillment error. Vendors screw up. We'll get it corrected." The compliance officer slid my packing slip onto the table. This arrived sealed from the vendor. The SKU matches a case of discount bottles shipped last quarter. She didn't raise her voice. She didn't have to. The silence did the work for her. I didn't add commentary. I didn't need to. I'd already done my part. That afternoon, Derek stormed into my cubicle like a thundercloud, voice low, jaw tight. "You think you're clever, huh? Going around me? Making me look bad?" His hand pressed against my desk, fingers twitching like he wanted to snap a pencil. "This is career suicide, pal. Nobody crosses me and walks away clean." I looked up, calm. "It's not about crossing you, Derek. It's about math." For the first time in 10 years, he didn't have a comeback. He just stared at me, eyes narrowing before storming off toward HR. That night, my phone buzzed again. A new invite. Compliance follow-up. Confidential. The fuse wasn't just lit anymore. It was burning fast, and Derek was standing on the powder keg. He wrote my exit. I edited the ending. 2 days after that follow-up meeting, Derek called me into his office. He didn't sit behind his desk like usual. He stood by the window, backlit, arms folded like some courtroom judge about to hand down a sentence. "Listen," he said too casually, "there's concern about your attitude. You've been disruptive." He slid a folder across the desk. A performance improvement plan. 3 pages of vague language. Failure to align with leadership tone. Needs improvement in collaboration. Resistance to feedback. Not a single missed deliverable. Not a single metric about quality. Just words that could mean anything or nothing. "This is for your growth," Derek added, lips curling into that fake mentor smile. "Sign it, and we'll work through it. Don't sign it." He let the silence hang. I picked up the folder, flipped through the pages, and smiled, because I already knew how this game played out. That night, I pulled receipts. The late-night emails Derek had sent, ordering me to work weekends with no comp time. The Slack messages where he took credit for solutions I'd posted hours earlier. The HR form where he'd marked budget constraints as the reason for blocking my raise. The same quarter he'd approved premium employee awards packages to his cousin's LLC. And most damning, the expense export I'd quietly saved months ago, showing Derek's approval signature on every vendor invoice that didn't match what employees actually received. I put it all into a neat PDF and submitted it through the company's whistleblower portal. Anonymous at first, just enough to open a case file. The next morning, compliance reached out for a clarification call. I dropped the anonymity. If Derek was going to come for me, he'd know exactly who was holding the receipts. Retaliation came fast. My workload doubled. Derek started nitpicking every email, CCing half the leadership team with petty corrections. He scheduled back-to-back coaching sessions, none of which had anything to do with my actual job. Then came the threats. Casual, whispered, always off record, in the parking lot. Careful what bridges you burn. References travel faster than you think. At my desk. Funny how some people just stopped getting invites to the big projects. I kept my cool. Every time he slipped, I logged it. Date, time, place, exact words. Compliance had already started pulling vendor contracts. Procurement flagged the LLC as a shell tied directly to Derek's cousin. HR tried to stall, but their fingerprints were all over the approvals too. One night, after everyone left, I found Derek standing at my cubicle, flipping through the papers on my desk. He didn't see me right away. When I cleared my throat, he jumped like a kid caught stealing candy. "You're done," he hissed, shoving the folder back. "You think compliance protects you? They'll protect me. I built this place." I leaned in, calm, steady. "Then you'd better hope your foundation's stronger than your whiskey." For the first time, Derek's smile cracked. Not the polite crack from the CEO at the town hall, but a real, human crack. The look of a man who realized the game he'd been winning for years had finally turned against him, and I wasn't playing defense anymore. The board doesn't do drama. It does outcomes. 3 weeks after I dropped my file into the whistleblower portal, the company held an emergency town hall. No slides this time, no catered sandwiches in the back, no people are our greatest asset rehearsals. Just the CEO standing at the front of the room, tie loosened, voice sharper than I'd ever heard it. Some of you may have noticed irregularities in our recognition program, he began. No names yet, but every head in the room knew. An internal audit uncovered severe misuse of funds. Those responsible are no longer with the company. That was the polite version. The real version had unfolded over the past 48 hours, and I had a front row seat. Security badges deactivated mid-morning. Derek's was the first to beep red at the turnstile. He swore, tried again, then banged on the glass until security escorted him out. No box of personal items, no chance to spin a farewell email, just silence and the shuffle of his designer shoes on the tile. By noon, HR's director and the procurement manager followed. Same routine. One moment at their desks, the next flanked by 2 security guards, walking out past stunned employees clutching coffee cups. Their offices locked behind them before their chairs even cooled. The audit report trickled through the grapevine faster than the official email. Premium whiskey gift sets, invoiced at $450, delivered as $21 bottles. Executive plaques, billed at $300, arriving as discount store acrylic frames. Team recognition dinners marked at $2,000, canceled at the last minute, food never ordered. All routed through Innovative Recognition Solutions, LLC, a company registered to Derek's cousin, who was now being subpoenaed by compliance. The total skimmed, north of $200,000 over 5 years. When the CEO finally named Derek out loud, a ripple went through the crowd. Some employees gasped, some smirked. A few looked down, ashamed they hadn't spoken up earlier. The CEO didn't sugarcoat. Trust was broken. Systems were abused. We are correcting both immediately. He paused, let the silence hang. Effective today, all milestone recognitions will be reinstated at full value. Retroactive awards will be honored, and moving forward, procurement will operate under full transparency. It wasn't just policy. It was spectacle. A message to everyone in the room. The game had changed. After the meeting, co-workers I barely spoke to stopped by my desk. A quiet, thank you. A handshake. Even an apology or two. I should have said something sooner. The bottle had become legend. People whispered about it in the break room like it was Excalibur. That night, I walked past Derek's old office. Empty, stripped of his framed certificates and fake plants. The blinds half drawn, the chairs shoved against the wall. For years, that office had been the source of every denial, every insult, every stolen ounce of credit. Now, it was just a hollow room, waiting for someone else to fill it. I didn't smile. I didn't celebrate. I just stood there, breathing in the quiet. Because for the first time in a decade, the silence didn't feel like defeat. It felt like justice. They offered me a title. I wanted a say. 2 days after Derek's badge went dead, I was summoned to the top floor. Not the glass-walled conference rooms where middle managers rehearse their smiles, but the CEO's actual office. Carpets too soft for real shoes. A skyline view that made the city look like it belonged to him. He motioned for me to sit. No preamble. I owe you an apology, he said, for the gift, for the oversight, for everything. On the desk sat a fresh envelope, thick with papers, a promotion, senior manager, retention bonus, back pay. The kind of offer that would have thrilled me a year ago. Now it just looked like a Band-Aid over a scar. I don't want a plaque, I told him. I don't want a bottle. I want my team paid what they were owed. Retroactive. Every missed bonus. Every canceled award. He hesitated, then nodded. Done. And I want transparency. No more shell vendors. No more black box budgets. Publish the vendor list. Show us where the money goes. Another pause, another nod. We'll draft the policy. That was the real victory. Not the corner office or the bigger paycheck, but the leverage to make sure the people I'd sat beside for 10 years weren't treated like afterthoughts again. For the next few months, I stayed. I steadied the team through the chaos, fielded their questions, made sure the back pay landed in their accounts before rent was due. My title changed, my salary jumped, but inside I knew I wasn't theirs anymore. Not really. Quietly, I lined up interviews, took calls during lunch breaks, traded stories with recruiters who'd been circling for years. By the time the company felt stable again, I already had my next move locked. Bigger role, better culture, a place where recognition meant more than a crooked label. On my last day, I left my keycard on the desk. No farewell speech, no cake in the break room, just a quiet exit, the same way I'd arrived 10 years ago. But before I left the building, I made one stop at the shipping desk, a small package, carefully sealed, addressed to the CEO. Inside, a top-shelf bottle of whiskey, the kind that costs more than Derek ever pocketed in a month. No crooked label, no typo, just a note tucked inside, for the people who actually earned it. And with that, I walked out, lighter than I'd felt in a decade.